All right, so here we are in the Korg ESX, and as you can see, I have the Korg Mod Wave next to me. In A1, there's nothing on any of the channels. It's at 132 beats per minute. Gonna set the tempo lock so that things stay in time. And I'm gonna go to an initial performance. And I'm going to go over to the wavetable, and I'm going to, this is the basic wavetable in the init voice, and I'm going to change it to a sine wave. Turn down the sub, and we go to the amp envelope, and I'm going to give it a little release. So it makes it a little chimey or tiny. Love a pure sine wave, especially with the tail like that. Now, Korg ESX, keyboard part 1. There is no sample in that slot. It's just sending MIDI to the mod wave, and it's getting audio from the mod wave. Now I'm just going to make some quick patterns. I'm going to turn on the record metronome with 1 bar. 1 bar prep. So we're just going to put a few notes in. And then I'm going to go shift pad 2 to go to move data, change it to repeat, hit pad 2 again. Then I'm going to hold down shift and go forward to 1 bar. 4 bars, and go back, and now it has repeated this across the 8 bars. I'm going to add a few notes. Now I'm going to go in, turn off keyboard part, go in and make sure that all the timing is good, that everything's on an 1/8 note grid. Everything looks pretty good. Now over here on the mod wave, we're going to play around a little bit, but actually I'm going to go to that. See, there's no sample in that slot in keyboard part 1. And I'm going to go to a single cycle wave. I'm going to choose a saw wave. And now you're hearing the mix of both. I'm going to turn the filter down a little bit so it's not so striking a difference, not so harsh. Turning the level down. Okay, now we're hearing the mix of the 2 signals. I like the sound of that. Mess with some chorus a little bit. Not on the incoming mod wave signal, but in the saw, single cycle saw wave. So now I've chained the flanger to chorus flange to a delay. Okay, I like the sound of that, so I'm going to resample. I'm going to hold shift and go to record, and I'm going to change it to mono, because that's default by the way. Now in the first slot here, I have a drum kit. I'm going to go down to slice 1, which is a kick, and as soon as I start this sequencer and it's resampling, when it rolls back around, before it gets to that point, I'm going to put a kick drum there so that it records that kick drum. Then when I'm editing the sample, because I want it to be trimmed perfectly, I'll be able to use that kick drum as a reference for the end point of the sample. I'll dial it back until the kick drum disappears, and I'll know that the sample is trimmed perfectly. Okay, so it's sampling now. I'm gonna go ahead and put that kick drum in there so that when it rolls around to bar 1, you'll see. Okay, now I have a sample. Let's listen to it. Now you can hear that it's mono. You know, it is what it is. We are going to take some stereo samples soon. Now, when you're editing a sample, when you do resampling, if you noticed right here what I did, I'm in editing. I go down to the start point of the sample. Now, a lot of people try to use that dial to get to a start point of a sample. That is a lot of work. Many people don't know that you can hold down shift and turn the dial and it goes to larger increments, okay? The first thing that you should do when you resample, if you were to turn the pitch way down and hit the sample, you would find that there's a significant amount of space between when you hit the play button and when the sample actually starts. So the best way to get a good sample with resampling, it just kind of has a little bit of latency. So just go to start position, hold down shift, and go to the very first increment, 1. Okay, so you see that I'm doing that now. Hold shift. Now, after I did that, apparently I'd already done it. After I did that, I'm going to go to the end point. So what I'm going to do now is you'll see that I'm taking the start point knob and I'm turning it all the way pretty much right to the very end. I'm not going all the way, but just to the very end. That way, in order to hear if I'm cutting that bass drum out and trimming it properly, I won't have to listen to the entire sample, right? So you'll see what I mean in a moment. Okay, hear that kick drum? We're gonna shave it back. Again, just like with the start point, in the end, when we're editing the end point, hold down shift. You'll get much bigger increments. See? Almost gone. Okay, now I'm going to hit truncate, right? Which is shift pad 12. Truncate cuts all that extra time off. And I'm going to do normalization. As you can hear, it's a lot louder now. And I'm going to save it. Now I end up naming this A1 because I'm working in A minor. The reason why I'm working in A minor is because I have a vocal and a track that I want to use this stuff on later, which you won't hear that today. Okay, so now back in the pattern, we're going to go to slot number 5, and I'm going to go to the sample that we just made. Going to trigger it on the first note of the first bar, as you can hear. And mess with some effects a little bit just to hear how it sounds. Sounds pretty with some reverb, even if that Korg ESX reverb is terrible. Okay, so now I'm muting that, going back to the keyboard part, turning the sample off. Now I'm going to scroll through some of these presets. I can see that it's clipping, so I'm pulling the input volume back, the trim. I don't know a lot about the preset instruments in the Modwave presets. I do have a couple that I do go to because they sound nice. One of them is kind of a brassy, like classic analog brassy sound, which kind of has some power, so I kind of remember where it's at. There's one called Rhythm Something, which when arpeggiated sounds beautiful. I do have a couple snow metal presets that I made, but it's almost like I made them for one project and they're not super usable later or something. I mean, they probably are, I like making new stuff. This is pretty. Right there, I'm messing with the filter envelope settings and the cutoff and resonance, but turn on the arpeggiator. I'm going to go up and latch that arpeggiator so it stays on, and I'm going to change the timing to 8s. Beautiful, right? Now I'm adjusting the filter envelope for both parts. Amp envelope in part B. Just getting a good sound. I just raised the volume on part B. Decided to add a wavetable. Okay, I'm starting to get a sound that I like. Nice sound there. Added a reverse delay and reverse delay with some reverb. Now, Korg sequencer. It is monophonic, but that doesn't mean that while I'm resampling, I can't play with my hands too. Sounds like a classic Skinny Puppy bass progression. Okay, resampling, stereo this time, not mono. Now before that first bar rolls back again, I'm going to put that kick drum in there, watch, right there. Okay, now let's go to the sample. Sounds beautiful, go to start. Hold down shift, go to 0, 1. Turn the knob to the end of the sample again. Yep, there's that kick drum. Go to end point editing. Hold down shift and dial it back. Big stereo samples. Sounds good. Not good for a full live set because it'll eat up all your time, but for individual tracks or just like making some movements, man, sounds good. Okay, truncate and normalize. Woo. I'm gonna name this A2, and then I'm gonna save it. And of course, because it's stereo, it's going to save in a stereo slot. S12, I think is what it says there. Back to the pattern. And we're going to go to 3. As you can see on the Korg ESX, there are 3 spots where you can use stereo samples in a stereo manner. 1 is in slot number 1. And of course, if you use a stereo sample, it will take up 2 slots. So you can put a stereo sample in slot number 1, which will take up both drum part 1 and 2. You can put it into 3, which will take up drum part 3 and 4, or you can put it into the slice, not slice. You can't slice a stereo sample. You can put it into the stretch spot, and it will take up both of those slots. These are not stretched, so we can't use them like that. That is a good option for the future. Okay, so I put it in number 1. Now I need to adjust volume because it's very loud. Now we're gonna go do another keyboard part. And I'm pretty sure that I cleared this part out. If I haven't yet, I do in a second. It's gonna be a completely different part. Now I'm just looking for some voices. There we go. Sounds like some DJ Shadow. Now I'm going to use a note repeat. I'm going to use the repeat function, which is Shift and Pad 2. Repeat. 1 bar. 1.00. Awesome. Just adding a few notes again, you know, so it's not completely repetitious. Now some of these aren't quite on. It'll sound rolly, you know, like that. I like that. Nice. Sounds like ethnic strings. Listen to how beautiful that is. Taking a sample, put that kick drum back in there. Start point to 1. Scroll to the end of the sample. Get rid of that kick drum. Perfect. Truncate. Normalize. Save. Next, I'm checking how much sample time we have left. It's still 24 seconds. Now these are all too loud. When I'm normalizing these, it's putting them at plus 12 decibels, right? And that's not exactly what I want. Once I put some drums in, I do realize how loud these actually are, and I dial them back. Sounds amazing. How pretty. Ring modulation on synth. Now I'm going to mute everything and go to keyboard part 1 again. And that's what I'm looking for right there. We're going to put some bass in. Go back to initial performance. I'll build a bass. Using my cyborg wavetables that I made. Changing the coarse pitch, the octave of the sub. Detuning two saws against each other in part one to give a respace. Mess with the filter a little bit. That note there sounded terrible and I don't like it, so I'm going to record over it. Obviously that last bass note is short. Ooh. So I muted everything but the keyboard part. We're gonna get that guy coming in mono. Setting the levels. Putting that kick drum there again. From stereo to mono. Now it's resampling. Put that note in there. Put the kick drum. Okay. Do all the same steps. This one I'm going to call A, B, which is for A minor bass. I realize what I don't like is that ring modulation. When it's too full like this, it just sounds overdriven. Overdriven. Okay, so I just added some breaks, a sliced break, and that's when I'm starting to realize how loud everything is. I don't like the sound of that break through the compressor. I'm trying to dial it in, but it's not successful. Much better. Here we go. Now I go into the sample edit and I decide to normalize that break and see if I can get it louder, and I find out that it's already maxed out, which of course it is. I do everything in live before I dump it into ESX. So. Adding it all in there. And once it's in there, then I'll start fading up the instruments and mixing it, you know, in headphones. It's not the best, but whatever. Make it as loud as possible without compression. Decide to do bass first. Just let that through, the sound through from the, there we go, from the mod wave, and now I'm just going to scroll through some presets there, add a few things. That sounds amazing to me. At this point, I decided to try like a rolling side style bass line. And I realized that that voice, which does sound good with the rest of the stuff, is not what I'm looking for. So I start scrolling through presets again. Just gonna add the sequence. I can play with the voices. I changed the octaves of parts A and B in this point. Add an arpeggiator, add some octaving in the arpeggiator. Latch the arpeggiator. Sounds good. Now listen. Okay, so let's hear a tiny little bit of kind of all this together. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. I want everybody to be blessed. Yeah, it's only going to be about 2 or 3 more minutes of music. Love you guys.